Good afternoon, Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. Happy Monday. Welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, Nick Hausman, joined here as I am every Monday to get the week going right. It's our very good friend, Michael Wiseman. Michael, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
And thank you. I don't have a name for this move that I open up the Wrestling Inc. It's either the hammer or the milking the cow. I feel like we got to name this, but this is my excited to be here on a Monday move. Just the fist of fury waving, you know?
Do the Weissman. Do the Weissman.
Never do the Weissman.
Do the Weissman. It's called the Weissman. It's like the Bartman. It's your Bartman. That's all you get it, right?
I get it. Yes, that's a great reference, and I feel honored to be on the same. I'm on the same plane then as Bart Simpson. Yeah.
All right, you are, if anything, the Bart Simpson of the Wrestling Inc. Daily universe. I'm like the Homer. I drink too much and I get in trouble. All right, hey, we're gonna have a great show. What a hot news segment we have here. Tons of news. Cody Rhodes, obviously, all over everything. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about all the news here. We don't have an interview today, so just a nice, meaty news block later on for everybody at the end of the show. We'll dive into the mailbag. We're going to talk about Marco Stunt. That's different.
Yeah. We never talk about Mark. I don't remember ever talking about Marco Stunt with you on this podcast. It's a first.
We're going to give the whole mailbag to Marco Stunt here today. So we're going to talk about Marco Stunt in the mailbag. And, of course, the comment section is open wherever you're at. Twitter, YouTube, Justin TV over on YouTube saying hi from Cape Town. Justin, thank you so much for joining us today. James Jones, you're here too. You're talking Flame Whack, talk about news topics we're talking about here in the show. I love that. Do that throughout the show. We'll pull your comments up onto the screen. Maybe not Flame Wax, though it is very funny. There's a poop emoji in it. We'll bring it up here in a little bit.
Can I just say, when you said Justin TV, I didn't realize that was a user. I thought that somebody was literally joining us. Do you remember the website, justin.tv? It's been defunct now for like a long time ago, but it was one of the early original streaming video channels. Do you remember this?
I do not. I'm sorry. I missed the boat on justin.tv.
Yes. That's what I thought you were. I was like, are we on justin.tv? I thought it was dead.
Is it a Wordle? Is it a Wordle?
Oh, you know what? No, it was not a Wordle, but it was eventually bought by Twitch. So there you go.
Kind of a Wordle.
Your streaming platform post of the day. How about
that? All right. This is not a conversation about Wordle or Justin TV. Let's get back on the pro wrestling train. It's time for some news you can use, news that will leave a bruise. We're going to talk about Cody Rhodes, the big breaking news that broke, of course, right after we did the show on Friday. So this has been simmering for 72 hot hours, like a nice rib, like ribs.
Like we're being pranked by Cody Rhodes? It's a
Vince
McMahon joke.
Falling off the bones, but I don't think we're getting ribbed here. No, PWInsider.com saying Cody Rhodes has officially signed with WWE. Apparently it took place 13 to 17 days ago as of this recording. Updated those days from the post on Friday. Current plan right now to have Rhodes debut WrestleMania weekend, as reported earlier by The Observer. Rhodes versus Rollins, that's rumored to take place at WrestleMania 38. Rhodes is also expected to be on the Raw brand. Fightful has spoken to a lot of top WWE talent who sounded very excited about Rhodes returning to the company, and WWE is planning to have Rhodes at Raw after WrestleMania 38 on Monday, April 4th. So there it is. That's what it looks like. Is we finally have some clarity, Michael. It appears. What's your thoughts here on all this?
I mean, we have clarity, which is great. I've been watching Raw for weeks looking for this exact moment of clarity here. And, it's funny, we go back a week ago or so, and maybe a little longer than that, people were saying, oh, he's not actually signing a contract and he might be going back to AEW. And it shows you how crazy this entire set of circumstances in, that it was like, Cody Rhodes, he's going to stay with AEW forever. He's going to WWE for sure. Well, maybe not. And these news cycles are crazy to me. But they have been very centered on giving Seth Rollins. Everybody's story this year is, I need a match at WrestleMania. And kudos to WWE for giving us something in Seth Rollins week after week. He's going after Kevin Owens last week, who went after Stone Cold Steve Austin for weeks, right? They built some intrigue into Raw. Granted, I think the concept of we want a match at WrestleMania, and that's what this whole thing is built around, is a little bit crazy. I like personal feuds, right? But at least we've got weekly television building. And I think if you did not pay this off with Cody Rhodes, it's kind of like the CM Punk thing, right? One of the worst kept secrets in pro wrestling. If you didn't pay this off with Cody Rhodes, it was going to feel like a disappointment. So I'm glad that it feels like that's still the direction we're going.
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, I was also thinking earlier today about how the storyline for everybody is, oh, do you have a match at WrestleMania, right? I mean, it's not really about blood feuds, like things building. It's just kind of like, it's like prom.
It's like prom, yeah.
It's like you're getting to the last couple of weeks. I don't have a date. I guess I'll go with Omos. I guess we'll get to that in a little bit. It is a little bit like prom, right? And I also like how part of it now is just Vince just openly shaming people that don't have matches. And like, that's just part of your storyline, right? When the camera guy and Kayla Braxton or whoever come up and they say, oh, you said you're not going to be on WrestleMania. That's the beginning of your build to WrestleMania. Anyway,
it just, disappointingly, I think it's taken some of the, I like a really just personal story. And I go back to like the classic Rock Austin, the Limp Bizkit promo, how intense and real that felt. Like it blurred the lines and just, oh, we need to wrestle at WrestleMania. How can I get there? Feels a little bit forced from my creative storytelling point of view, but this is where the company is right now. Bigger picture, brighter side. I'm glad that this is going somewhere. And again, Cody Rhodes being the guy for Seth Rollins. I mean, you talk about bringing Cody Rhodes back in a big way. No, he's not facing Brock Lesnar. He's not going to be conquering Roman Reigns. I cannot think of many bigger opponents for Cody Rhodes to come back and face, because Seth Rollins has been the face of Raw and a multi-time world champion. This is a big deal for Cody Rhodes. He's not mid-card.
Great wrestler. Like, yes. And let's not like slouch on the fact that on top of all the other cool, like Seth Rollins knows how to go in and put in a main event level match. Like he would have, it's like Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens, Zayn, much like kind of Danielson and Moxley and Cody would have stood out in AEW just for the fact that they know how to work that style, right? Cody coming back and getting to work with a Rollins like that. And I saw there was a photo somebody shared out on Twitter. I forget exactly who, but it was Rollins and Rhodes from the NXT, like early days of NXT, like when they were both in developmental, kind of sharing a moment. These guys know how to work together. Like the match is going to be very, very good. And Cody's probably going to want to try to steal this weekend, honestly.
Well, and I think Cody Rhodes is going to go over. That's one of the things about this, right? Seth Rollins could lose to Cody Rhodes, and he's Teflon. He's so great in this character, and he's a heel, right? Cody Rhodes goes over. It doesn't feel like Seth Rollins loses that much momentum, much like I expect Kevin Owens to get a mud hole stomped in him by Stone Cold Steve Austin that same night. So it's a great pairing. And Nick, I think for me, the question now is we've got 2 more weeks for WrestleMania. Is that right? 2 more weeks?
Yeah, 2 more weeks. Yeah, 2 more weeks.
So how do we tell? Are we going to tell the story? Are we going to do the weird Undertaker John Cena thing from a few years ago? I expect WWE is going to want to put a press release out there maybe next week. We don't want Cody on TV before the Raw after Mania or before Mania itself. I get that. We want to save that pop. They want that Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy returning pop. I understand it, but we still need to build this, right? And so maybe we get like a press release. WWE announces they have signed the executive vice president of, their biggest competitor.
So here's the thing. So I'm going to go back. I paused the comments here because I wanted to make sure to start with this one. I'm going to read some more stuff about Cody. So if you want to jump in the chat room. Rachel Willis said, is Cody coming tonight? Kind of leaning in on what you were saying there. Now, tonight, Monday Night Raw is in my backyard of Chicago, which unfortunately I will not be there. But it is right here in my backyard of Chicago. Last week, they were in Jacksonville, right? And everyone was like, oh, Cody coming back in Jacksonville. Oh, that'd be quite the dig at AEW. But that's not really the root of AEW. The roots of AEW, all in, the essence of AEW is Chicago. That goes down out in the burbs. I hope they move it into the city. I hope it comes to the Wintrust, much better venue, because that venue out there sucks. I don't want to say that. Sears Center, I think it got renamed to something else, though. Yeah. Anyway, origins, roots, the 10,000 fan show to shut up Dave Meltzer on a $5 bet or whatever. That happened here in Chicagoland area, right? And so, again, like I'm tempted. Does he? I don't know. I kind of love this. I don't really know. My gut says no. My gut says he's going to want to be seen for the first time, arriving on the Rusev tank remodeled into an American tank, with him coming out, shooting lasers out of his fingertips. Like that's how I think he wants to be repositioned. But I could see him in Chicago tonight for the reason I just said, man. It's just as symbolic, in my opinion.
They could, and there's a part of me that's like, yeah, you want to get him out there, but the way they're telling these stories this year, every week is like a different. Like one week it was Edge's big moment, right? And the next week it was Kevin Owens' big moment. And tonight I just went to WWE.com. We have Becky Lynch. Like they're kind of using every week as a different. Not that they don't touch on all the stories to some extent, but
Right.
every week one of their big stories is getting told on Raw. So I don't think it's going to happen tonight. I could see something next week because I think you still want to heavily tease it. We're in the know. Hardcore fans are in the know, but I think there's still a casual audience. Some people didn't find out CM Punk was in AEW until after that Friday night. And they're like, holy crap, this dude's back, right? So WWE is going to want to put something out there, I would guess.
I keep thinking they're going to do like some kind of thing where like show ends, Rollins is in the back and like Pharaoh walks by or something like that, right? You know, I don't know.
You tease the music. You could cue up the adrenaline, right? Just have it come on briefly, and I don't know.
Brandy Rhodes, what are you doing back here?
Wait, you're now in the main event for the women's side.
Weird. Oh, something like everything but showing Cody. Maybe my gut says we don't see him till Mania, but hey, again, you know, Chicago, a lot of history here. A lot of history in Chicago with Cody, AEW, all of that. Wouldn't count it out. I also like Leo Yorogua. I hope I got your name correct. I apologize. Love your I Stand With Ukraine profile pic. He says Cody versus Styles, Elite versus Bullet Club. It would be very interesting. I mean, look, and the match is very likely going to happen if these two share, you know, the same space, which it looks like they will. It would be something if the Elite and versus Bullet Club played out in WWE, but not AEW, where it seemed like so easy and obvious and profitable to do. That is something. Nice observation, Leo.
It reminds me a little bit, though, of whenever they did Shinsuke versus AJ Styles, and they were like, oh, we're going to have this New Japan Pro Wrestling style match, and that, like, WrestleMania match was kind of weird. I kind of get that vibe from this view, maybe. I don't know. Here's the bigger deal, though. Lots of people are already kind of crapping on this, saying Cody Rhodes is coming back. He's going to be Stardust in 6 months. He's going to be tagging with his dog, and that's going to be it, right? Which, by the way, Cody and Fair as a tag team would be amazing. But for me, this whole thing is the only, like, talk about big stars in WWE. Don't sell anybody else short on this roster. I get it. Like Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, that is the peak, the apex of that company. And no, it's like those two, and then everybody else is somebody entirely different, right? But Edge, AJ Styles, right? We got Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens. They don't have to be in the main event picture week after week to still be a big deal. We got the Alpha. We got these tag team titles. Randy Orton over here, right? RK Bro, and that's a main event tag team right there, fighting for people crapping on tag team titles, right? So again, don't overthink this, y'all. Is what I'm saying.
And I like this question here from the Hot Tag Wrestling Podcast. Hello, Hot Tag Wrestling Podcast. They ask, hey guys, do y'all think Vince is going to let Cody use Kingdom for his entrance? I can't see Vince being okay with hearing there is more than one royal family in professional wrestling. I've thought about this. I'm going to lean like 70-30. They make him change it, but I hope they don't. I think that Cody will click and work best if you see him as he was the last time you saw him in AEW. I would do the whole thing rising up where he comes out like he's in Star Trek. Do you want to see and feel the essence of what Cody was in this kind of renegade faction? I hate to say like invading WWE, but you want it to feel kind of out of place, if that makes sense, you know?
And part of that to me is what are they doing with him after Mania? Because I love that outsider approach, especially if you're going to kick off a bigger storyline with him kind of as the outsider here. And also their music in WWE has not been great for some time now. That's just kind of felt a little bit generic rock, SmackDown, create a wrestler for some time. Yeah. I could see them wanting to capitalize and reuse a really good rock song like they've done with guys like Edge and whatnot.
Well, and for all of the issues with Cody and his booking at AEW and why won't the fans cheer me type stuff, the song is not the issue. The song's a banger. Like, yes. I'll give credit where it's credit is due. It's such a great tone, fits the man. I don't change the song. And of course, the song like has more than one royal family, like maybe the McMahons, the Ortons, right? Mm-hmm. You know, there's not just, the Hart family. It's got multiple meanings. And Any more thoughts? Sorry, before I move on here, real quick.
No, I think it's cool. It feels very surreal. I know you said this months and months ago to me, and I was like, "You're crazy, Nick." Whatever. And pro wrestling is fun, and this is part of the reason we all love pro wrestling, are for larger than life stories like this that happen behind the scenes. So really cool.
Yeah. Well, kind of tying into the Cody story here, something that went crazy over on the website over the weekend was this photo that Paul Heyman shared. It's an interesting image. It was on Twitter. It had the caption WrestleMania spoiler. He posted a photo of action figures of himself, Roman Reigns, and Lesnar. Heyman proudly acknowledging his tribal chief, Roman Reigns, as Reigns stands atop Lesnar on top of an actual pile of rocks with the belts, raising the titles over his head. However, there's this small detail in the photo that that raised, I guess, many eyebrows. Not mine till today. I didn't quite get the reference until I saw it all laid out. But man, this is really something here, Michael. So you got this photo here, and it's Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns, and they're standing over a down Brock Lesnar. They got the titles here, right? But there's this detail. So whether it was intentional or not, there's this blurry Jon Moxley figure, an unrivaled collection series number 2. Thank you. Standing on the sidelines, looking on at the undisputed champion Reigns. Now, Mox is missing the jacket and the AEW title that came with the variation of the figure. However, he is wearing the same camo pants, and his upper body is designed slightly different than WWE's Elite Collection series of the figure. Now, obviously, Heyman could have meant nothing by it and simply had the figure nearby and out of focus. Mox just recently started a program with Danielson and Regal where the trio has started recruiting younger wrestlers from AEW. But it should be noted that Raja, a site I don't know that I've ever used as a resource on this show, no knock, old school, Raja, saying Moxley's contract ends in 2022, this year, after he signed his 3-year deal back in 2019. However, it was also stated that Mox had an opt-out clause in his contract that he signed that allowed him to finish up with AEW whenever he saw fit. There's this other note that's not about Moxley at all, so we'll get to that after this. I miswrote that. So anyway, this is all super interesting to me. Now, I've only had a couple hours to really kind of take this in. I see Hook over here in our chat room. Mox ain't going nowhere. Wow, he seems to have written that. You're going into a timeout, sir. You are.
Welcome to the show, and thank you as you leave.
You have said your piece too many times. Mox ain't going nowhere. But yeah, very interesting here. Double clutch 95. Wink is reaching with this. Heyman is out here playing with action figures. Now, the artist responded to Heyman, was like, "Wow, thanks for using my photo." Did we know that Paul noticed Moxley's kind of figure in the background? I didn't notice until I shared it out. Do you think that when he put the tweet out, he knew?
You got to know. I mean, you're looking at this picture. There are only 3 wrestlers on the image. I can't imagine a guy who is attuned to detail like Paul Heyman. Got to know. Maybe he didn't notice it was Mox. Maybe he thought it was somebody else in the roster he's not familiar with. We're going to read into this. My biggest thing about this, and I love this, and I love the idea that we look at this Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar feud, and I think a lot of us believe Roman Reigns is going to unify these titles and who's going to conquer him. A guy like Mox coming back in with all that moxie, with all that AEW prestige right behind him now, he'd be the perfect guy if they treat him right to conquer Roman Reigns. But my biggest beef with this theory is that Moxley was in a really bad space. And we look at him getting clean and him kind of having to reanalyze his own health and mental well-being and how bad it was for him to be in WWE. I just don't see him coming back to WWE anytime soon.
All right. I'll just say this as we wildly speculate about a photo of action figures. All right. Now, Renee has never, his wife, hitched her wagon to AEW and it's walked the line, right? And been incredibly amicable here. Mox has had his negative things to say about creative and stuff like that. But again, Mox was also I guess not in a great space either, right? The guy had to, get himself straight and clean his head up. We don't know how much of that affected everything that's going on, right? That's a very, complicated issue there, right?
Sure.
You also look at Joey Janela somebody we know Moxley likes a lot, right? Is now just kind of out of the picture. You have a much more robust main event right now with Danielson there, who he's tagging with. Punk is there, right? Adam Cole, Page, of course, who he's done stuff with. Omega kind of in the wings. He's had dad now.
Yep.
If he looks at what Cody's doing and Cody's flipping the chance here to go make some big money, I don't know. Crazier things have happened. I had an inkling about Cody. I don't necessarily have that about Moxley the same way here, but I do see like a path. I guess if Paul's not, if Paul is trying to gently, push the sailboat here.
I think the only way this could happen is if Mox feels like he has truly, in the last 3 years, sowed those wild oats. Because, I mean, again, he was that caged animal coming out of his initial WWE run, understanding there could be something else. He could go do blood matches, even on AEW TV, right? He could do death matches. He could have this other wild card persona and be himself and come out to Wild thing. And if he feels like that's satiated now, and maybe he does want to go and be the family man as his kid gets into toddlerhood and he can get the right deal and get a big money payday with it, there is a scenario where that plays out. But again, I'm just skeptical. But again, I was skeptical about Cody. So,
Yeah, I'm going to keep an open mind. I mean, look, I'm with you. Heyman never does anything unintentionally, right? I don't see this one just being something where he just found a cool photo and wanted to share it. Although I guess I'll leave the door open that is a possibility. Very, very interesting stuff here right now. Certainly, we'll see if anything else comes up this week. But also in the world of WrestleMania, soon after becoming a 2-time NCAA wrestling heavyweight champion over the weekend, Gable Steveson tweeted, "Dear Wrestling, thank you," to essentially bid farewell to his amateur wrestling career. He then posted the following message: "Also, I'll be at WrestleMania. It's time." However, Steveson would quickly delete the tweet, presumably to keep his WrestleMania debut a surprise. We don't know why, but he did delete the tweet. Any thoughts on Steveson here, possibly coming to WrestleMania?
I think, what is it? I will be at WrestleMania. It's time. I don't think he's had the chance yet to go in full on and do all of the WWE training down at the Performance Center. I don't think he's ready to be a superstar and wrestle a match. This has got to be a segment of some kind, right? So I'm curious who they were going to pair him with for WrestleMania. He's not going to be Seth Rollins' opponent. People will be like, oh, he's going to fight Seth. No, he's not going to be Seth Rollins' opponent. But you can't do something really unique with this guy coming out of his big win here. And congrats to him 2 times. That's not an easy thing to do at all. So I'm glad we're going to immediately come up with this dude. My question is, though, he was just wrestling in the NCAA. Is he not finishing up his degree? Like, doesn't he have a degree to finish up if he's still a collegiate wrestler?
I think he is finishing his degree if he hasn't already. And I don't know exactly like what because I know a lot of people wanted to kind of extend his stay so he could also do the NCAA finals and stuff like that and do WWE at the same time. So let's all just say he's going to get a degree, and if anything were to happen, unfortunately, he could become an IT guy. Let's just hold out hope. That's what Gable Steveson, the backup plan is. I think this, whatever. I think they're going to do with him like what they did with that judo champion over in Saudi Arabia like a year ago, where they're going to bring him out. Somebody will confront him, run him down, and then he'll give him the angle slam, lock in the ankle lock, and everyone will go, yippee.
Can you see them doing something? I mean, with Kurt Angle, possibly, right? We have 2 Olympic gold medalists here. Alpha Academy's there, right? And that seems like a pretty easy get to get Chad Gable out there with him, but who knows?
I would love that. I would love to see Gable Steveson get recruited into Alpha Academy with Chad Gable. Let him run for a little bit, right? And then, of course, he just gets the Gable match, then off into the races. I don't hate that. That'd be awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Maybe Kurt Angle pulls him away. I mean, I think putting Kurt Angle with Steveson could be a really cool moment. Like, we don't do a ton of managers in WWE, but why not bring Angle back as a manager for this dude? Could be awesome.
So WrestleVotes tweeted out just shortly before we went on the air, Omos is going to get a WrestleMania singles match, and his opponent may surprise people. Now, Fightful very shortly afterwards, after talking to sources saying It looks like a returning Bobby Lashley might be the person to go against Omos at WrestleMania. I honestly don't hate it. I'm a big fan of Lashley and Omos. Lashley would look really cool and big and dominant here, and Omos I don't think would be too hurt by losing to a world champion this early in his career. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's strongman style. Bobby Lashley, very strong man. It could work. It's interesting. Omos has been kind of like out of my mind a lot lately. I know they've had him on Raw, and he kind of had this big win last week against another giant. So I understand them wanting to kind of push him forward. But I would think you'd want something different for Bobby Lashley here, but maybe I'm overthinking it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a return thing. Again, there's only 2 weeks to go. I mean, do you bring Cody back, right? What? I mean, there's just so much going on here in these 2 weeks just to have but again, are we going to have a lot of these kind of like, I don't have a WrestleMania match, so I'm just going to go to the ring and complain about how does that happen like 4 times at WrestleMania this year? Twice.
They want you to watch the brand. They don't want you to watch the wrestlers, Nick. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
Who's going to be the smart guy that comes up with a WrestleMania open challenge? Kind of figure out your own, answer to this quagmire here.
It's like if I could just declare myself for the Royal Rumble, why would I not declare myself for the Royal Rumble? Like, why do people not declare for the Royal Rumble every year? If you could have a Mania match by just calling somebody out, go do it. That's your chance to big money paydays, baby.
I see James Jones here asking if they're going to do the Battle Royal this year. I don't think it sounds like they're going to do it. Doesn't sound like it. Guess they could.
Multi-man matches or multi-women matches seem like they're not as in vogue this year for whatever reason.
Sami Zayn made it official on Friday night. He challenged Johnny Knoxville to an anything goes match at WrestleMania 38, to which Knoxville has accepted. I cannot wait to see the wacky hijinks that play out. This is maybe the most excited match for any match I am going into at WrestleMania. I think this is top 2 for me match-wise.
This will be a lot of fun. This is the Jackass 3 match at or the Jackass 4 match at WrestleMania. Well, and kudos to not only to Johnny Knoxville for coming out and doing this in a live environment, which is very different than taping their TV show and movie, right? But you need a guy like Sami Zayn. Number one, he gives it credibility, right? Kudos to him because he's a very talented multi-time champion, pro wrestler. But also he's willing to go to those extremes and make it a fun story. And he's such a talent, and WWE is so lucky to have him and doing whatever it is he does, whether it's going up against Brock Lesnar on Friday Night SmackDown and entering that storyline, or going up against Johnny Knoxville. He just adds something that makes all of this. You could put Johnny Knoxville with a dozen guys, but Johnny Knoxville makes this a more must-see match, in my opinion.
I am so excited for this. Yeah. All right. And lastly here, WWE originally announced Sasha Banks and Naomi versus women's tag team champions Carmella and Queen Zelina Vega, but then Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, they defeated the champs in non-title match. They earned their way into the match and made a triple threat. But then SmackDown saw Shayna Baszler and Natalya hit the ring during the Banks and Naomi versus Ripley and Morgan match. Champs also got involved. Segment ended with the champs facing off with Baszler and Naomi, raising their titles in the air. Baszler and Natalya were later stopped backstage by Sonya Deville, who praised them for what they did to the other tag teams, and then announced that she and Natalya are going to enter into the title match, making it a fatal 4-way at WrestleMania. Wow. Ooh.
Woo.
Yeah.
Wow.
Huh. Man, that's the booking right there. Ooh. Yikes. This got less interesting to me as teams got added. I was down from the get for like a good women's tag. This has gotten less interesting to me as women get added to it.
We were asked about the Battle Royal earlier in the show, and this to me is filling one of those niches, which is we got to get everybody on the card and make it feel like a big deal. In this storyline, these tag team titles don't mean as much as the main event titles for the women, the singles titles, that is. So let's just get them all on there, and it'll be kind of a controlled chaos. This maybe will be night 2, and Johnny Knoxville and Sami Zayn will be night 1. But either way, this will be kind of your all women over the top match, right?
All right. Thank you, Michael, for joining me at Top Show Talk all the news today. Thank you to everybody who tuned in here today. Join the comment section. Really appreciate you guys engaging the show, talking the news of the day with us. Come on back Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, to join the live recording of the news segment if you want to jump in and be a part of the show. If not, hey, thanks for listening to us in podcast form. Appreciate that too. Let's dive into the mailbag here real quickly. At Wink Daily, WINC Daily. That's the account to follow if you want to vote in the daily polls. Today's poll question: if Marco Stunt were to leave AEW, what would you like to see him do next? This, of course, spurs from the Fightful report that his contract runs until May 1st At the same time, AEW has several other contracts coming due. While he has not been backstage for recent TV tapings or used on TV, Stunt is still with the company, and it was noted that Stunt has not been mentioned at any creative plans moving forward, and there have been merchandise designs pitched for Jurassic Express, but Stunt was not featured on those designs at all. Stunt has reportedly expressed his willingness to prove himself and remain with AEW, but there's no word on how officials have reacted to that. Joey Janela recently confirmed that he is leaving AEW when his contract expires. In that same interview with Denise Salcedo, he mentioned how AEW officials have ghosted Marco Stunt, much like they have ghosted him as well. So I asked everybody, what do you want to see Marco Stunt do if he leaves AEW? About 200 votes here. 45.2 say go back to GCW in the Indies. 25.6 pursue a musical career. 22.6 NXT 2.0. 6.5 to everything else. Your thoughts on the poll and this story, Michael?
I guess Marco Stunt was always one of those guys. He's kind of tagging along with Jurassic Express. I don't want to downplay his pro wrestling accomplishments, right? But he seemed like the least necessary of the three in Jurassic Express. He added an element of excitement, of fun from being kind of their cheerleader, but he wasn't out there doing all of the bumps week in and week out. And he wasn't kind of the major focus or star power. Jurassic Express without Marco Stunt is still Jurassic Express. And you've seen that in recent weeks. I imagine we're getting to that point. Tony Khan has signed some big name contracts, big money contracts. And just like we're seeing with Joey Janela, you're going to start letting some of these original AEW contracts expire because they're just not being featured. They're not being as big of a draw, and you don't need them when you have the star power that's kind of weighing down the top part of your card nowadays.
It's interesting because I don't want to say all of these talents that are being kind of pushed aside. The issue was like they just weren't TV ready, which is something I think about when you have these talents coming in that expect to work a certain way, right? They're used to certain things early on when it's the Wild West. You're just trying to put shows together, get interesting people up on the card. You grab people, but the thing about Joey was they seemed to think that he didn't work correctly, right? They thought he was dangerous. Marco Stunt, very new and green, but that's not necessarily the case, I think, because you look at Orange Cassidy, you look at an MJF, you look at a Darby Allin. MJF and Sammy Guevara had TV experience. Orange, Darby, less so, but they're success stories. I don't know that you could I don't know that you could just point at that and say that's not why it didn't work out for these guys. I don't really know with Marco. I like Marco. I don't get it.
It's just maybe not a right fit for any number of reasons, right? And sometimes it comes down to the opinion of somebody. Like Orange Cassidy has been a huge success story, but also you can tell that Tony Khan gets why the fans connect with Orange Cassidy, and he himself is super into Orange Cassidy, and he's the lead booker. I'm not saying with any knowledge he doesn't like, not that he doesn't like, but he's not into the Marco Stunt character. What I am saying is it seems like Jurassic Express, the main platform for Marco Stunt, has worked just as well without Marco Stunt in recent weeks. Where are you going to put your money at that point? So I hope either way, though, Marco Stunt can go and do any of these things and be a success. And I think GCW and the Indies, dude's only 25. He's got plenty of time to prove himself and get himself back out there.
Yeah, and he's got a beautiful singing voice, right? Like, I don't know if you've ever heard Marco sing. He did a GCW show, he did the Jericho Cruise, and, he's got a great voice. He's very talented. I know his dad, I think, thought that he was going to be a musician. He was kind of surprised he was going to be a wrestler. He's like, okay, I guess. So he's got other things to fall back on, but anyway.
Can we I want to pull those out just a little bit smidge longer. Can you highlight Ray and Muhammad's comment up here about the buy rates for
pay-per-views? Sure. Yeah, go for it.
Because I know all this buzz around pay-per-views and like, oh my God, AEW is dropping a pay-per-view buy rates. Put this in context, everybody. Yes, AEW had a major peak pay-per-view last year with CM Punk's return. Their pay-per-view buy rates did not reach that same height last weekend. It is still their second highest rated pay-per-view buy rate in their history, in their very short history. This comment from Ray and Muhammad points out there 205 last year for the Punk return pay-per-view. And then this year, Revolution pulled in somewhere around 165, 173. And the reason I bring this up in context of the Marco Stunt story right here is this most recent AEW pay-per-view is a testament to how, and I don't agree with everything week by week creatively that Tony Khan does, but bigger picture, they're finding a way to continue to grow their pay-per-view audience without having to rely strictly on big surprises. Their storytelling is working. Their big stars being spread out across all the matches is working. not everybody is going to make the cut moving forward. And that's just the way business works sometimes, unfortunately. But AEW has found a way to do all of this and be profitable and grow their business. And despite the fact that it's not the same peak that it was last year, it's growing for very different reasons. And I think that's incredible.
All right, we'll put a button in it there for today. Thank you, everybody, again for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to be joined by Issa. Issa's my new Tuesday co-host now. That's right. EJ's gone. Yeah. EJ's gone. Issa's in. Issa's going to be with us every Tuesday now. So come back tomorrow for Tuesdays with me and Issa. It's her Tuesday takeover. She also does the NXT post show that night as well. So Issa all day. Of course, if you like the Wrestling Inc. Daily, support us on whatever podcast platform you like. Support WrestlingInc.com. We got our Twitter account back. Hell yeah. And of course, come back here tonight after Raw for the Wrestling Inc. podcast. It's a lot like this, just with different people, and they talk late night news and the show Raw. Okay, Michael, anything you want to put over here before we wrap up today?
I just want to say, do the Wiseman, and then you can also follow me on Twitter. I'm at the Real Wiseman.
Do the Wiseman. And yeah, Issa's here listening in. Thank you. Yes, that's me. That's her. She'll be here tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.